مشاهدينا الكرام، ننتقل إلى المؤتمر الصحفي للرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب عن آخر مستجدات فيروس كورونا في الداخل الأمريكي. إلى هناك.
كما تعلمون كان يبلي بلاء حسنا، وهو رجل محب لبلاده ولبلادنا، ونثمن ما كان يقوم به. نتمنى له الشفاء العاجل. في السياق الحديث عن الشعوب العظيمة التي تقوم بأعمال عظيمة والأناس العظماء، لدي وزير الخارجية مايك بومبيو، وسوف أطلب منه أن يدلي ببعض الكلمات، وبعد ذلك سوف نعيده إلى مقر عمله في وزارة الخارجية ونتلقى بعض الأسئلة، وسوف أستمر في إدلاء بياني ومن ثم تلقي الأسئلة، وبعدها سوف يتولى الكلمة نائب الرئيس مايك بنس. شكرا السيد الرئيس. بموجب قيادة الرئيس، فإن وزارة الخارجية تقوم بواجبها في حماية الشعب من الفيروس والعمل على ملازمتهم في منازلهم. كما تعلمون أن البلاد مغلقة والبنى التحتية كلها باتت في حالة معطلة، ومنذ 29 يناير أعدنا أكثر من 20,000 مواطن أمريكي إلى موطنهم، وأكثر من 90 دولة، وقد تم هذا من خلال تنظيم أكثر من 490 رحلة جوية، وأن جهود استعادة هؤلاء المواطنين الأمريكية تسير بلا هوادة، وأننا نتواصل مع الطواقم العسكرية ومع الفنادق ومع كافة الجهات من أجل ضمان عودة الشعب الأمريكي لعودتهم مع أسرهم. كما ترون خلفي عدد الرحلات التي تم تسيرها لإعادة المواطنين الأمريكيين. كل يوم أسمع بعض القصص الرائعة عما يقوم بها فرقنا. فمثلا بعثتنا في بيرو تعمل مع الشرطة هناك من أجل نقل بعض المواطنين الأمريكيين الذين كانوا قد تقطعت بهم السبل في غابات الأمازون. وفي نيبال هناك امرأة أيضا كانت قد نفذ منها في نيبال امرأة قد نفذ منها الدواء، نعمل على تعجيل وتيرة عودتها. وفي هندوراس كان هناك حظر للتجول بالكامل، لكن سفارتنا قامت باتخاذ الإجراءات الضرورية لإعادة المواطنين، وكنت قد اتصلت مع القنصل هناك وكان قد قدم عونا كبيرا في إعادة المواطنين. وتلقينا رسائل كثيرة من أناس وتأكدوا من أن بلادنا لن تترك المواطنين الأمريكيين في الخارج. وكنت قد اندهشت عندما تلقيت بريدا إلكترونيا يمجد فيه الولايات المتحدة، وأعتقد أن كل من خاطبني كانوا يتعاملون معنا في هذه الجهود بمثابة زميلا وصديقا لهم. وكانت وزارة الدفاع أيضا قد تعاونت معنا في إعادة عدد كبيرة ووكالات أخرى في ظل هذه القيادة التي ساعدت في إعادة هؤلاء المواطنين. وفي سياق جهود استعادة المواطنين أيضا نستمر في مساعدة العالم من خلال ما يقدمه مركز الأبحاث لمركز رقابة الأوبئة في تقديم المواد والنشرات العلمية، ونأمل أن نعيد الاقتصاد على قدميه مجددا عندما تنتهي هذه الأزمة. شكرا سيد الرئيس. لننتظر إذا ما كان لأي من الصحفيين سؤال لوزير الخارجية. إننا نثمن الجهود العظيمة التي تقومون بها، وكما تعلمون أن مواطنين أمريكيين في أنحاء مختلفة من العالم يرغبون بالعودة. لا يزال هناك بضعة آلاف من الأمريكيين العالقين ويجدون أنفسهم في أماكن صعبة، لكن ما قمنا به بأن هؤلاء الناس كانوا قد ذهبوا في إجازات في السابق، وسوف نعمل على لترتيب عودتهم، لكن وزارة الخارجية سوف تقدم كل العون الممكن، ونحن سوف نقوم بتسخير كافة الموارد المخصصة للأشخاص العالقين في الأماكن التي تكون فيها الطرقات والموانئ مغلقة، وسوف يتم تسريع وتيرة العمل لضمان عودتهم بأسرع ما يمكن بحيث يستطيعون الصعود إلى الطائرات والعودة إلى بلادهم. هناك بضعة آلاف نعمل على دراسة الأرقام، لكن يمكن لكل شخص عالق أن يذهب إلى موقع وزارة الخارجية ويطلب المساعدة، وسوف نفعل ما بوسعنا لإعادتهم بأسرع ما يمكن. سوف نبقي هذه المسألة مستمرة طالما هناك موارد متوفرة لإنجاز هذه المهمة. هل أجريتم اختبارا لفيروس الكورونا ماذا بشأن الجهود الدبلوماسية التي يتم العمل عليها بواقع 50,000 مواطن في السلك الدبلوماسي؟ هناك بعض المواطنين الذين كانوا قد ذهبوا في إجازات أو في سفرات أو في رحلات مختلفة. إن سفارتنا سوف تعمل على إعادة معظم الموظفين في ووهان، وهناك مجموعة من الموظفين العاملين في المجال الدبلوماسي قد ظهرت نتائج اختبارهم إيجابية. وهذا الأمر ومسألة الاختبارات لا تنطبق أيضا على فقط العاملين في وزارة الخارجية بل تطال كافة الموظفين الآخرين. هل تعتقدون أن الصين كانت قد أخفت بعض المعلومات عن الولايات المتحدة؟ هذا ليس الوقت المناسب لتوجيه الاتهامات أو الانتقادات، لكن لابد لنا أن نعمل بحس من الشفافية وأن نفي باحتياجات الناس والعمل على تطوير العلاجات واللقاحات لنعرف منشأ هذا الفيروس. لذا كل دولة بما في ذلك الصين لا يجب أن تكون شفافة بما حدث لديها وأن تظهر بياناتها كما أظهرنا بياناتنا للعالم، بحيث يستطيع العلماء والنخبة منهم إعادة الاقتصاد إلى مكانته الطبيعية وكل دولة تقع على عاتقها مسؤولية. لقد بدأ الفيروس في الصين على الصين مسؤولية أن تظهر تلك البيانات وأن تشاطرها مع بقية دول العالم. هل شاطرت كل دول بياناتها مع الولايات المتحدة؟ يقع على عاتق كل دولة مسؤولية مشاطرة بياناتها بشأن فيروس الكورونا، لكن سوف نترك الأمور لجلسة أخرى للتحدث عن مدى التقدم في هذا الخصوص. شكرا السيد الرئيس. سؤال للوزير ترامب، سؤال للوزير بومبيو. تبرعت الصين ب20 مليون دولار لمنظمة الصحة العالمية. هل تعتقدون أن الولايات المتحدة يجب أن تستمر في نفس الجهود في دعم منظمة الصحة العالمية؟ في هذه الأوقات أننا نقيم مسألة التمويل مع منظمة الصحة العالمية، لكن كما قال الرئيس في مطلع حملته أن كافة تلك المنظمات يجب أن تفي بالرسالة والمهمة التي أنيطت بها، بحيث لا تقوم فقط منظمة الصحة العالمية بل كافة المنظمات التي تتلقى أموال الضرائب من الأمريكيين يجب عليها أن تقوم بالوفاء بالمهام المنوطة بها وأن تقوم بتنفيذ الواجبات التي يفترض بها أن تقوم بها، وهذا ينطبق على منظمة الصحة العالمية. يؤمل بأن تقوم بتنفيذ ما كان هو مرجو منها. سعادة الوزير، قلتم بأن بعض الموظفين قد جاءت نتائج اختباراتهم إيجابية. هل تم توفير عقار هيدروكسيكلوروكين للدبلوماسيين في الخارج؟ لا أعرف الجواب، لكن سوف نقدم أفضل الرعاية الطبية قدر الإمكان، ونحن قد فعلنا ما بوسعنا لتوصيل الاحتياجات الطبية لهم في الميدان. هل لك أن تعطينا سعادة الوزير تحديث عن نسب الإصابات في ووهان؟ لقد عرضنا منذ اليوم الأول الذي علمنا فيه أن الفيروس قد أصاب أناسا كثيرة في ووهان كل سبل العون، لكن الصين رفضت تلقي ذلك. على العالم يدرك بأن المساعدات التي كانت قد عرضت أيضا على دول أخرى مثل إيران، لكن هي الأخرى أيضا رفضت هذه المساعدات، ولا أعلم ما هو حجم انتشار الفيروس داخل إيران. كما ترون أننا نضمن بالعمل على توفير كافة الإمدادات الطبية للمواطنين الأمريكيين، وتحدث الرئيس في أكثر من مناسبة عن هذا الموضوع، ونعلم بأنه يجب على الدول أن تقوم بإجراء اختبارات وأن تقوم بالعمل على الحد من بلوغ الذروة. الولايات المتحدة كانت قد واجهت تحديات كبيرة، ومركز رقابة الأوبئة تساعد دولا كثيرا من أجل وقف زحف هذا الفيروس، وأيضا العاملين معي الأشخاص الذين يقفون معي أيضا يقومون بتقديم كافة المعونة المطلوبة لوقف انتشار هذا الفيروس. هذه ليست مسألة على علم بها، لكن مما لا شك فيه أتذكر عندما أرسلنا فرقنا لإخراج ما يقرب من 800 مواطن أمريكي كانوا موجودين في يوهان، وكانت تلك أول عملية استرجاع للمواطنين الأمريكيين، حيث أرسلنا أشخاص متدربين في أماكن صعبة، وضمننا أن أي منهم لم يصب بالفيروس، لكن لست على دراية إذا ما كان آخرون قد أصيبوا في مسألة أو في سياق استعادتهم. ولدينا حتى اللحظة 3 وفيات بين الأشخاص المحليين الذين كانوا يعملون مع وزارة الخارجية في سياق تنفيذ تلك المهام. كانت هناك مطالبات من منظمة الصحة العالمية لتغيير طريقة العمل في التصدي لهذا الفيروس. هذا ليس هو الوقت المناسب لتبادل الاتهامات. يمكننا أن نعود للماضي ولنقف على كيفية أداء منظمة الصحة العالمية. دورنا الآن هو حماية دافع الضرائب وضمان أن لا تذهب أموالنا إلى منظمات لا تقوم بتأدية واجباتها للشعب الأمريكي وللشعوب الأخرى كما طلب الرئيس ترامب. قلتم بأنه يقع على الصين مسؤولية إعطاء الأرقام والإحصائيات الصحيحة عن الإصابات في الفيروس. هناك أماكن كثيرة كانت تتعاون معنا وتقدم الإعانة للأشخاص الموجودين على الأرض بتزويدهم بالإحصائيات والبيانات، ونثمن هذا الأمر. قلنا لنا بأن نحن مستعدون على تقديم التعاون، ونتوقع منهم أن يعملوا بالمثل من خلال تقديم البيانات والإحصائيات. هذا الأمر لا ينطبق على الصين بل على كافة دول العالم. إننا وجماعة وبصورة مجتمعة يجب أن نعمل بهذه الطريقة من أجل تأمين كافة البيانات. شكرا سيد الرئيس. شكرا جزيلا. منذ بضعة أيام قمنا بتزويد 11,900,580 كمامة في ولايات مختلفة منها نيويورك ونيوجيرسي، و1.9 مليون منها لنيوجيرسي، و2 مليون لنيو أورلينز. وتحدثت مع حاكم لويزيانا قبل قليل، والأمور تسير على ما يرام أفضل مما كنا نعتقد. وسيتم العمل على إعداد مستشفى آخر، وهي مسألة ناقشناها أيضا. اليوم قمنا بشحن 8,000 جهاز تنفس، ولدينا 10,000 جهاز أخرى متوفرة للانتقال للجهات التي قد تحتاجها. وسوف يتوفر أيضا يوم الاثنين أعداد إضافية من أجهزة التنفس لإرسالها. إن إدارتي تعمل مع فيليبس لمضاعفة إنتاجها من أجهزة التنفس بحلول شهر مايو، وقد يتضاعف إلى 4 مرات لإنتاج أجهزة التنفس ذات جودة عالية. ونقوم بإزالة كافة الحواجز البيروقراطية من أجل ضمان إنتاج أجهزة التنفس في القطاعات الصناعية. هذا الأمر سوف يؤمن احتياجات بلادنا من هذه الأجهزة بحيث نستطيع أن نقوم بإنتاجها بنفسنا. ونتوقع أننا سوف نكون في وضع يسمح لنا لإرسال البعض منها للخارج، ولا سيما في تلك الدول التي هي بأمس الحاجة إليها. يبدو بأن توقعاتنا كانت محقة بشأن أجهزة التنفس، لأن بعض الولايات كانت تحتاج بالآلاف من هذه الأجهزة وأكثر مما كنا نتوقعه. بالإضافة إلى ذلك، ومن مطلع شهر مايو سوف نتلقى ما يقرب من 300 مليون قناع أو كمامة وجهية، وسوف يتم تسليم 300 مليون منها في شهر مايو ويونيو، وسوف يكون لدينا مخزونا كبيرا، ونفكر بتصنيع 200 مليون آخرين إذا كنا بحاجة إليها أو للتخزين، بحيث سوف نكون في موقع لنحافظ على مستويات مرتفعة من مخزوناتنا من الكمامات. واليوم 750 ألف من الملابس الوقائية ذهبت إلى دالاس وتكساس من خلال ما تقوم به وكالة إدارة الطوارئ الفيدرالية بالتعاون مع فيديكس. لدينا 750 ألف من الملابس الواقية ذات الجودة العالية التي تم إنتاجها. وفي سياق اطلاع القطاعات الصناعية والعلماء والأطباء، فهناك 10 عقاقير الآن قيد التجارب السريرية، وأن إدارتي تتخذ خطوات غير مسبوقة لطرح علاجات جديدة دون أي تأخير. والأطباء والفنيون في المختبرات والشركات التي تحدثت إليهم يوم الأمس يطرحون بعض الأفكار والاقتراحات التي يحدون الأمل بأنها سوف تكون مهمة في المستقبل القريب. إن مخزوننا الوطني مزود الآن بما يقرب ب 30 مليون من حبوب الهيدروكسي كلوروكين. وقد سمعتم سمعتم الممثلة التي تحدثت عن تقديم أكثر من 3 مليون جرعة من عقار هيدروكسي كلوروكين. ممثلة الحزب الديمقراطي، وكنت قد سمعت بيانا بثته في ميشيغان، وما قامت به كان أمرا عظيما، فقد تحسنت كثيرا بعد أن أخذت هذا العقار. بالإضافة إلى ذلك أن زيترومايسين والزنك بينما يقال بأنه قد تمت توصيته من قبل بعض الأطباء، بحيث يرون بأنه يترك نتائج طيبة. هناك قصص كثيرة جيدة يمكننا أن نتحدث عنها. 30 مليون جرعة تم توزيعها، وأود أن أشكر رئيس وزراء الهند على السماح بإيصال ما طلبناه قبل أن نشأت تلك المشكلة، وسوف نتذكر صنيعته تلك. وسوف يتم وضع إرشادات من أجل ضمان عمال الإنشاءات وقدرتهم على أداء الأعمال. نعمل على هذا الأمر في الفترة الحالية. والسؤال الذي طرح قبل قليل حول منظمة الصحة العالمية، وكما تعلمون المنظمة كانت قد تقدمت ببيان في يناير، وقالت بأنه ما من عدوى تنتقل بين شخص وآخر. وقد انتقدتني منظمة الصحة العالمية عندما قلت بأنه لا بد لنا أن نغلق الرحلات القادمة من الصين، ولا سيما من بعض المناطق منها على وجه التحديد. لذا في العام الماضي قد دفع مئات الملايين من الدولارات لمنظمة الصحة العالمية، وفي السنة الماضية كان هناك دفع بقيمة $452، والصين دفعت فقط $24 مليون. وفي الوقت الذي دفعنا فيه ما يزيد عن 500 مليون، دفعت الصين حوالي 3 ملايين فقط. وأحيانا كنا ندفع بمئات الملايين، في كانت الصين تدفع نسب صغيرة من تلك الأرقام. يجدر بمنظمة الصحة العالمية بأن تضع أولوياتها على نحو صائب، بحيث تكون المعاملة منصفة لكافة الجميع. لذا سوف نقوم بدراسة هذا الأمر والتحري به حول ما يجب فعله مع منظمة الصحة العالمية. لذا فإن الولايات المتحدة قد دفعت $452 بالمقارنة مع $42 دفعتها الصين فقط. هذا أمر غير منصف على الإطلاق. ودول أخرى أيضا تقدم مساهمات بأقل كثير من الولايات المتحدة. لذا يبدو بأن منظمة الصحة العالمية أدركت الأمور على نحو خاطئ. نحن قمنا بالحد من انتشار هذا التهديد بسرعة، وأود أن أنتهز هذه الفرصة للمواطنين الأمريكيين الذين يتجهون إلى أعمالهم كل يوم، ولا سيما في ظل تلك الأوضاع الحرجة وانتشار الجائحة، من أجل العمل على إطعام ومساعدة وكالات إنفاذ القانون العاملين في الخطوط الأمامية. وأحدهم كان قد تحدث عن أمناء الصناديق الذين يعملون في هذه الظروف الحرجة، فهم يتعرضون لخطر كبير وكانوا رائعون. والعاملين في قطاع الصيدليات والمتاجر أود أن أشيد بجهودهم لأنهم يعملون في ظروف غير مؤاتية، لكن سرعان ما سوف تعود الأمور إلى مجراها. لكننا كما تعلمون تبنينا استراتيجية من أجل الحد من انتشار تلك الجائحة، وفي مواقع كثيرة كما ترون التي كنت أراقبها في نيويورك ولوزيانا، فإن الأرقام تتغير، وهذا التغير يحدث بإيقاع سريع، ونحن نتجه في المسار الصحيح. لكننا مع ذلك قد نشهد أياما عصيبة في الفترة القادمة، ومن بعدها سوف نتخطى تلك الأزمة. ومن المؤسف أن بعض الناس قد يفقدون أحبة لهم أو أصدقاء لهم، لكننا لابد لنا أن نفتخر بما قدمه الشعب الأمريكي، وأحث الشعب الأمريكي على التقيد بإرشادات التباعد الاجتماعي بحيث يمكننا هزيمة هذا العدو بسرعة أكبر. نأمل بأننا نتجه إلى آخر مرحلة من التهديد، وسوف نقوم بنشر كافة معداتنا الطبية المطلوبة للخوض في هذه الحرب، ونقدم كافة ما يلزم من حزم تحفيز اقتصاديا، بحيث لا بد لنا أن نعيد بلادنا إلى مجراها. يوم الأمس كنت طلبت من الكونغرس أن يقدم 250 مليار دولار من أجل توسيع برنامج الدفعات بموجب شيكات للأسر الأمريكية، بما يسمح للشركات الصغيرة أن الحفاظ على الموظفين في سلم الرواتب عند الافتتاح مجددا. ومن أجل حماية الوظائف الأمريكية كنت قد طلبت الكونغرس أن يقدم أموالا إضافية لهذا البرنامج خلال هذا الأسبوع، وأعتقد أن هناك تفاهم بين الديمقراطيين والجمهوريين، حيث لا وقت الآن لأي ألاعيب سياسية أو إلى أي أجندات غير وثيقة الصلة. نود أن نحافظ على الشركات الصغرى، ويمكننا أن نتجه للمرحلة الرابعة قد تنفذ فيما بعد، وبفضل نطاق 350 مليار دولار التي طرحناها سوف يتم تعزيزها أيضا ب 250 مليار دولار طلبناها من الكونغرس، بحيث يتم ضمان نجاح هذه القطاعات بشكل مستمر. الديمقراطيون والجمهوريون يقفون في صف واحد من أجل أداء هذا العمل، وفي الأيام القليلة الماضية وفي الأيام القادمة سوف نقوم باستعادة الاقتصاد الأمريكي ليكون على قدميه مجددا، وأعتقد بأنه لدينا فرصة لنصبح أكثر قوة من قبل. لقد تعلمنا الكثير ولدينا حوافز مالية كبيرة، ونأمل بأننا سوف نقوم بتمرير تشريع من أجل البنى التحتية والشوارع والجسور، بحيث نعمل على بناء بلادنا وليس بلاد أخرى. وفي سياق مثابرة مواطنينا لهذه الظروف الصعبة نرى حسا متناميا من الوحدة وإرادة وعزيمة قوية وشجاعة في كل يوم نراها يوميا. فالعزيمة التي يتحلى بها الشعب الأمريكي في مواجهة هذه الأزمة بصرف النظر عن مدى صعوبتها وبصرف النظر عن العوائق يجب أن نتخطاها، فإن الشعب الأمريكي يحارب من أجل تحقيق النصر في المستقبل القريب، وهذا النصر الذي يستحقه مواطنون الأمريكيون بجدارة، والتخلص من هذا الكابوس. أوشكنا على تخطي المرحلة وسوف تنتهي الأزمة بسرعة، وأعتقد أن الشعب في هذه البلاد هو شعب رائع. سوف أتلقى بعض الأسئلة وأحيل الكلمة إلى نائب الرئيس. ذكرت ABC بأن كانت هناك تحذيرات عن اندلاع هذا الفيروس منذ مطلع شهر نوفمبر. متى تنام إلى معالمكم أي معلومات أو استخبارات عن هذا الأمر؟ عندما قمنا بإغلاق الرحلات التي كانت قادمة من الصين وتبعتها أوروبا، كنا قد عملنا على ذلك في شهر يناير، لكنني أود أن أطلع على هذه المعلومات التي ذكرتها. ما الذي يجب أن يحدث في الولايات من أجل افتتاح البلاد، وما هي خطتكم؟ لا بد لنا أن نكون في مستوى نزولي كبير، وأن نضمن ذهاب وإزالة تلك الجائحة، لكن نتمنى أن نستطيع أن نفتتح بلادنا أو القسم الأكبر منها. أقول بأننا نسير بشكل جيد من حيث الجدول الزمني الذي رسمناه، لكن هذا سوف يحدث قريبا. أننا نتناقش مع المحترفين والمتخصصين في اجتماعات مختلفة حول تحديد هذا الموعد. أعتمد عليهم إلى حد كبير. بالنسبة لإجراءات الاختبارات والمراقبة، لقد وضعنا أنظمة اختبارات كبيرة. تذكروا أيضا أننا ننظر إلى الحالات، وأنا لا أود أن أتحدث عن دول أخرى التي لا تظهر عدد الحالات لأنها لا تقوم بإجراء اختبارات ناطقة واسعة النطاق. نحن نقوم بإجراء اختبارات أكثر من أي دولة أخرى، وهو بات موطن قوة بالنسبة للإجراءات المتبعة لدينا، وباتنا نتلقى اتصالات حول تلك الإجراءات التي نتبعها في مسألة الاختبارات واسعة النطاق والدقيقة. سؤال يتعلق بالبنى التحتية. كان قد تم تخصيص 8 مليارات دولار في تينيسي من أجل البنى التحتية هناك. لا بد لهذه الولاية أنها تلقت 8 أو 9 ملايين دولار، وفضلا عن أموال الطائلة الكثيرة. هناك بعض الوكالات شبه الحكومية التي تحقق أموالا كبيرة، وهذا أمر لا ضير فيه، لكن عندما نطلب منهم أن يقوموا بتأدية خدمات لنا فهم يترددون، وهذه قصة مر عليها فترة طويلة. سؤالي الآخر، تينيسي فالي أوثوريتي كانت تزعجني بطلباتها المتكررة منذ فترة طويلة.
show on Netflix called Tiger King, and the man who's the star of this is a former zoo owner who's serving a 22-year prison sentence. He's asking you for a pardon, saying he was unfairly convicted. Your son yesterday jokingly said that he was going to advocate for it, and I was wondering if you've seen the show and if you have any thoughts on pardoning Joe Exotic.
Which son must be done?
هناك شخص كان قد حكم عليه ب10 سنوات في السجن، وكان ابنكم قد تحدث عن ضرورة الإعفاء عنه في هذه الظروف. أي ابن لابد أن يكون دون.
You think he didn't do it? Are you on his side? Are you recommending?
هل أنت بصف ذلك الشخص؟
As a reporter, you're not allowed to do that. You'd be criticized by these. Would you recommend?
لا يحق لك كمراسل أن توصي بإصدار عفو عن هذا السجين.
Is that Joe Exotic? That's Joe Exotic.
بالعودة إلى موضوع فيروس الكورونا، الأسبوع الماضي كنتم قد قلتم بأننا علينا أن نتوقع بين 100 إلى 200 ألف من الوفيات. يبدو أن الأمور باتت تستقر نسبيا، والناس مستمرون في مسألة التباعد الاجتماعي. ما رأيكم بالأرقام؟ رأيي بأن تلك الأرقام التي قد ذكرت من خلال التوقعات، لكننا نعمل بصورة أفضل من هذه التوقعات. لعلي أترك المختصين للحديث عن الأرقام. أعتقد أن الكثير منكم قد أجروا تحليلا لنفس النموذج، وإذا ما قورن هذا النموذج مع نماذج أخرى فنحن ننظر من خلال البيانات المتوفرة من إيطاليا وأسبانيا، ونحن نبلي بصورة أفضل من دول كثيرة. نحن ندرك بأن نظام خدمات الرعاية الصحية متميز، وكلكم كنتم قد اطلعتم على النموذجين اللذان تم اتباعهما، وكان قد ساهما بتخفيض نسبة الوفيات إلى حد كبير، والتي باتت الآن بواقع 61 ألف. وهذا النموذج يتعلق بما تقوم به أمريكا. هذا ما يحدث، وأعتقد أنه ما كان متميزا في هذين البرنامجين هو أن العلماء الميدانيين قد أدركوا مدى أهمية تغيير السلوك بين المواطنين من خلال تغيير طريقة سلوكهم، وهذا سوف يخفض عدد الحالات والوفيات في المستقبل، لأن الآن وصلنا إلى فترة إجراء التخفيف التي يجب أن تظهر نتائجها في الأسابيع القليلة القادمة وتخفيض الوفيات. إننا قد دهشنا بما يقوم به الشعب الأمريكي. لقد درسنا نماذج مختلفة وأقوم بتحديثها فترة تلو الأخرى عن دول مختلفة من خلال إجراء مسوحات مختلفة، لكن هذا الأمر قد يغير كيفية نظر الناس إلى الأمراض التنفسية في المستقبل، لأنه عندما يقوم العالم والمواطنين الأمريكيين باتباع تلك الإجراءات، فهذا لابد له أن يؤتي بالنتائج المطلوبة. ولقد دهشنا بقدر العزيمة التي تحلى بها الشعب الأمريكي. الكل قد قام بعمل عظيم. تلك الأرقام كانت مبنية على التوقعات الأولية، وكما قلت بأنه قد يكون لدينا فرصة للتغلب على تلك الأرقام. شكرا السيد الرئيس. أود أن أضيف على ما قالته الدكتور بريكس. تلك نتيجة لالتزام الشعب الأمريكي، فكما قلنا بأن التحديات تكمن في تغيير السلوك، سواء من خلال تطبيقها بصورة منتظمة أو تغيير العادات التي كنا نمارسها باستمرار. ما يدهشنا بأن الشعب الأمريكي قد غير من طريقة سلوكه الاجتماعي، وهذا أمر يدعو للفخر. يوم الأمس قلتم بأنكم لم تطلعون على مذكرة المذكرة التي قدمتموها إلى بيترسون. أنا لم أطلع على تلك المذكرة، وكما تعلمون تصرفت بسرعة، وكان الجميع يعتقد أن تصرفي لم يكن صحيحا بشأن إغلاق الحدود، ليس فقط أمام الصين بل أمام أوروبا. وأحسب أن تلك كانت خطوة مهمة، لكن لم أرى تلك المذكرة التي تم توجيه انتقادات فيها لي. منظمة الصحة العالمية قالت بأن الوقت الآن هو ليس لتسييس هذه الأزمة. ما هي عواقب وقف تمويل الولايات المتحدة لمنظمة الصحة العالمية؟ كل ما قلته بأن منظمة الصحة العالمية هي منحازة للصين. كان هناك مطالبات من منظمة الصحة العالمية لي بأن أبقي الحدود مفتوحة، وكانوا قد قدموا بيانات بأن الفيروس ينتقل من شخص لآخر، لكن أعتقد بأن المنظمة هي التي تقوم بتسييس هذه الأزمة. ونحن كنا قد أنفقنا ما يقرب من 500 مليون دولار كتمويل. يجدر بمنظمة الصحة العالمية أن تقوم بعمل أفضل. لا يمكن الحديث عن السياسة إذا ما نظرتم إلى علاقة المنظمة مع الصين التي أنفقت فقط 42 مليون في حين أنفقنا 452، ومع ذلك المنظمة منحازة للصين. هناك جملة من التقارير التي صدرت تتحدث عن قيام كوشنر لتأسيس قاعدة بيانات تتعلق بفيروس الكورونا. أنا لست على دراية بهذا الموضوع. هل هذا الأمر مقبول بالنسبة لك؟ لا أعلم، لابد لي أن أطلع. قد يكون الأمر مناسبا بالنسبة للتعقب وتتبع الحالات. لم أسمع بهذا الأمر من قبل. إساءة، كان هناك إساءة استخدام لشركة فايزر. لا أعلم بهذا الموضوع. شكرا سيد رئيس. في نيفادا هناك الكازينوهات ودور الترفيه الأخرى التي كانت تجني أموالا في السابق قبل الإغلاق. ماذا بشأن الموظفين هناك؟ حيث كان اعتقاد لدى أصحاب تلك الكازينوهات بأن موظفيهم لن تنطبق عليهم حزمة المساعدات. سوف أنظر بهذا الأمر. لم يخبرني أي أحد عن هذا الموضوع.
لم يتكلم أحد معي حول الموضوع، ولكن
الأمريكيين على عمله؟ هل يتركون الأمور للحكومة؟ متى التوقف عن الابتعاد؟
عندما تقول يستمعون، لا أعتقد سيستمعون. الجميع يريدون العودة إلى عملهم في أقرب وقت ممكن، وهم قاموا بعمل ممتاز لناحية الابتعاد الاجتماعي، ونحن من فضل ذلك نقوم بأداء حسن مقارنة بالتوقعات الذين قالوا أن 240 ألف شخص سيموتوا لو لم نتصرف. نحن تصرفنا. وأشخاص أذكياء دخلوا إلى مكتبي وقالوا لي هذا هو الخيار. كنا نتوقع أيضا أن يموت أكثر من 2 شخص. اتخذنا قراراً قوياً، والآن انخفضت الأرقام بفضل الإغلاق إلى أقل من 100,000 شخص ربما، وهو إنجاز كبير.
هل يمكن
نحن نقوم بأداء ممتاز فيما يتعلق بالأرقام، أما بالنسبة للأيام لست أدري، لا يمكننا أن نعرف حتى الآن. علينا أن نتوخى الحذر. فيما يتعلق بالتباعد الاجتماعي نستمر في هذا الاتجاه لفترة طبعا، ثم نعود إلى ما حصل من قبل. نعرف أن ما يحدث الآن في إطار هذا الفيروس لم نراه من قبل، ربما منذ العام 1917 أو 18، الجائحة الكبرى. الناس يريدون العودة إلى حياة طبيعية، إلى الرياضة، الباسكتبول، الفوتبول، الفوليبول وغيره، إلى المطاعم. ربما نتوجه إلى ذلك ببطء بعض الشيء، ولكن سنعود يوما ما إلى ما كنا عليه قبل الفيروس، ونتمنى أن لا نرى جائحة من هذا النوع.
Back of your claim that mail-in voting is rife with fraud, like the example you gave of people working in rooms filling out false ballots. You've been talking about voter fraud since the beginning of this administration.
Very fair.
And where's the evidence of it?
I think there's a lot of evidence, but we'll provide you with some, okay? And there's evidence that's being compiled, just like it's being compiled in the state of California, where they settled with Judicial Watch, saying that 1 million people should not have been voting. And you saw that? Did you, wait, excuse me. Well, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, in California, in the great state of California, they settled, and we could have gone a lot further. Judicial Watch settled where they agreed that 1 million people should not have voted, where they were 115 years old and lots of things, and people were voting in their place. What I see, and every one of those states that you mentioned is a state that happens to be won by the Democrats. And if you have a position like me, where it's registered, you're here, and we're voting someplace where I'm not. I haven't left the White House in, I guess, months, other than to, ask a ship to, wave it goodbye to New York, which, by the way, is now going, as you know, being used for the purpose that we're talking about, which a lot of people wanted. Wait a minute.
Voting doesn't work out well for the Republicans.
Well,
so
it hasn't.
Isn't your concern
it
really
certainly
just
hasn't. But if you're a senior citizen, and if you're somebody that needs it, I'm all for it. But they have to be very careful, because the things with bundling and all of the things that are happening with votes by mail, where thousands of votes are gathered, and I'm not going to say which party does it, but thousands of votes are gathered, and they come in and they're dumped in a location, and then all of a sudden you lose elections that you think you're going to win. I won't stand for it. Well, we're going to find out about the proof, because you're going to see what's going on. And I'm not going to stand for it. Our voting system, first of all, we should have voter ID. When you vote, you should have voter ID. And if you send something in, you should be sure, as a state and as a country, you should be sure that that vote is meaningful and it's not just made fraudulently, because there's a lot of fraudulent voting going on in this country. This country should have voter ID. Okay, let's do another one. Go, please.
Mr. President, currently the only way that we can track these millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine that are being distributed across the country is through the eHealth data system. How systematically is your task force watching this?
Well, I think it's very systematic, We're distributing the hydroxy all through the country. It's being distributed in large amounts. We have it coming in now. We were up to 29 million doses, then we went to 30 million doses, but we have it coming in all throughout the country, and much of it's being distributed. In fact, it'll start going down what we have in our stockpile. And again, it's had, you know, I hope it works. Again, I'm not a doctor, as you possibly have found out. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a person with common sense. And we've had some very good results over the course of a woman who just reported days ago. Yes.
Through the eHealth data system, are they?
I think no. We're looking to provide it in many different ways. In many ways, we're in certain instances we've been asked. In the case of Michigan, asked who the governor of Michigan would like to. I think she's become a big fan of it, the medication as something that's going to help with this horrible virus. And we're delivering it to the governments of various states when they ask. So certain states are asking, certain governments are asking, and we're delivering it directly to the government. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We know many people around the world are paying close attention to this press conference. So on behalf of
Where are you from?
Media,
where are you from?
I'm from Taiwan.
Good.
Yes. On behalf of Foreign Media Group, I'd like to ask you two questions. First question is that the French President Macron called Iranian President Rouhani and say that Europe has started to ship the medical goods to Iran. Will you consider
medical goods?
Yes.
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So will you think
if they're sending medical goods to Iran, it doesn't bother me. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other question is that the world also paying attention to the U.S. election. So we are also we know that Bernie Sanders dropped out today.
I did see that today.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really drop out. He didn't really. What about his delegates? I mean, he said he's going to keep his delegates, and which is sort of interesting. He's going to keep his delegates, and he'd like to get more. Now, is he dropping out or not? That's not dropping out. When you keep your delegates and then you want more delegates before you get to the convention, that's a weird deal going on there. I don't know what's happening. And I don't know why President Obama hasn't supported Joe Biden a long time ago. There's something he feels is wrong. Why isn't he'll come out? I'm sure he's got to come out at some point, because he certainly doesn't want to see me for 4 more years. We're not. We think a little bit differently. You know what? I'll tell you. It does amaze me that President Obama hasn't supported Sleepy Joe. It just hasn't happened. When's it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Why isn't he? He knows something that you don't know, that I think I know, but you don't know. So it'll be interesting. But with Bernie, I saw his standard fare today. I watched. And I hope that a lot of Bernie Sanders people, just like they did last time, we got a tremendous percentage of Bernie people. And I think they voted for me largely because of trade, because Bernie and I agree on trade. We agree that the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country they do business with. The difference is I've done a lot about it, and I'm doing more about it. And we've made incredible trade deals, including USMCA, the deal with China, and then all of a sudden that gets disturbed by this virus situation. But China has to spend almost $250 billion on purchasing our products, $40 to $50 billion with our farmers. And the Bernie Sanders people are big believers on what I'm saying on trade, and I got a lot of them in the last election that surprised people, but it didn't surprise me. No, those are great people. They're great people. But I just, look, I'm looking at Bernie Sanders. I watched this morning, and I said, what is that all about? Mike, you saw that, the delegates. He's not giving up his delegates. He's keeping them, and he said he wants to get more of them. And I think he's doing it to negotiate, I assume, but I don't know. That's a hard thing to do. Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Mr. President, OPEC is meeting with Russia tomorrow and some other countries to discuss oil prices.
Yeah.
Oil prices are at $23 a barrel.
Oh, that's good. Finally, somebody knows something when they ask a question.
What is your message to them ahead of their meeting tomorrow? Will the U.S. consider a coordinated cut of production here?
I don't think, look, we already cut. You know, we're like very market-oriented. If you look at Texas, and if you look at North Dakota, and if you look at some of our states that do this very well, they've already cut way back. You know, they cut back automatically. But in the case of Russia, in the case of Saudi Arabia, they increased production at a time when you didn't need it, and then they got hit by the virus, which knocked out 40% of the market. and now they're flooded with oil. Look, I just say this. You have two countries that are getting hurt very badly. Russia's getting hurt. That's their primary source. And Saudi Arabia, that's definitely their primary source. And it doesn't make sense that they flooded the market for whatever reason they did that for themselves. It's an argument that I think they'll straighten it out. A lot of progress has been made over the last week, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of OPEC tomorrow. But OPEC, obviously, for many years I used to think OPEC was very unfair. I hated OPEC. You want to know the truth? I hated it because it was a fix. But somewhere along the line, that broke down, and it went the opposite way. And we have a tremendously powerful energy industry in this country now, #1 in the world, and I don't want those jobs being lost, okay?
What will you do, just one follow-up to that, sir, what will you do if they don't end up cutting
We'll
tomorrow?
see. I mean, I have a lot of options, because got a lot of good options, Jeff. Beauties. I might like it even more. Now you'll watch. Let's see what happens. Hopefully they can make a deal. Let's go.
Clearly, Americans are getting very anxious to go back to work.
I
You're
agree.
sounding optimistic.
Including me.
Still very vague. Now that the IMHE model specifically has been adjusted down to 61,000, when are we going to open back up? Can you give us a better date? Is it going to be April 30th, May 1st?
You said adjusted back down, 61,000. What was adjusted back down?
The IMHE model, the one that originally predicted like between 100 and
Yeah,
200,000.
go ahead. What's still a big number, right? 61, right? That's a big number. Go ahead.
But can you give us a more specific date? Will it be
Well, I don't
April
wanna do that.
30th,
Look,
May 1st?
I had a date, and I thought it was a very aspirational date. It's turning out to be very interesting because a lot of good things are happening by Easter. But I had a very aspirational date. I didn't think you could make it. I didn't say we would do it by Easter, but I said, boy, wouldn't that be great to shoot for Easter? That would be a great day, beautiful day, very important day to a lot of people like me and like some of you in the room, maybe all of you in the room, frankly. But Easter is a very important day. So I had, aspirationally, I said, let's see if we can do it at Easter, but I said it would be very tough. And I was criticized for that. So I don't like giving dates. And that wasn't a date. That was just an aspiration. That would have been incredible. But I don't think we're going to be very far behind. And some of these models are looking like Easter is going to be a very important date anyway because of the curve. I mean, it's hitting the top and it's starting to come down. And one person said Easter is looking like a good time. So a good time for that, for heading down. So we'll see what happens. Look, there's no reason to do that. We have a lot of good things happening. When I spoke to the governor of Louisiana today, he said, Tony, they need far less beds than they need. I said, well, good, because we're building 1,000-room additional. We built them 1,000 beds, and now we're building another 1,000. And I said, listen, is there a way that we don't build? I don't want to build them if they don't need them. In New York, the Javits isn't too heavily used. It's ready to go, 2,900 beds. Plus, we now have the ship set for COVID if they want to use it, and we're using it for Governor Murphy in New Jersey. So we'll see what happens. But, the numbers are coming way down. The ventilators, we're all set. We have a lot to go if we want, but I'm not getting calls where they need ventilators anymore. So we were right on those ventilators. I'd love to have additional ventilators for some of the countries that are our allies and our friends. And even if they're not our allies and our friends, you're saving human lives. But I'd love to see if we had some. I mean, we're making a lot of ventilators right now. We have and they take a while to make, and they're very expensive, and they're very complex to make. But I'd love to be able to help other countries once we're taken care of. But I just sent 100 ventilators to Colorado, and that was great. A senator there who's a terrific senator, Cory Gardner, and he called me last night. He said, could you get 100 ventilators for Colorado? And we just sent them out, and they'll be there very shortly. So, but it looks like we're in great shape from the bed standpoint. It looks like we're in great shape from the ventilator standpoint. And you just heard I ordered 500 million masks, 500 N95s and others, and surgical. But we ordered 500 million masks, 300 and 200, and they're going to be here very shortly. So we're really in great shape. and we started off with an empty cupboard. So I'm going to leave the vice president and his group to handle it, and I will see you probably tomorrow. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You don't have any investments in hydroxychloroquine?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, no, thank you. Good question. Thank you.
You all can come up if you want. I'll be brief. Well, good evening, everyone, and to our fellow Americans out west, good afternoon. We find ourselves in the midst of a very tough week for Americans in areas most impacted by the coronavirus, the New York City area, New Jersey, Louisiana. Continue to focus resources and attention on those areas, and I know that the hearts and prayers of the American people are with all of those communities. But in the wake of more than 1.9 million tests, we see more than 400,000 Americans have tested positive for the coronavirus, and sadly, we've lost more than 14,000. We grieve, but as the good book says, we do not grieve like those who have no hope. In this very special week, I know that the faith of millions of Americans is a comfort to them. The President and I spoke to more than 10,000 faith leaders, and we were able to express to them our gratitude for the way that they're strengthening the communities that they serve. But we also find hope in the numbers that Dr. Birx will continue to reflect on today. For as Dr. Fauci explained yesterday and in the days before, the losses, as grievous as they are, that we are seeing today are a reflection of people that contracted the coronavirus in many cases before strong mitigation steps were taken, before the guidelines for America fully took hold. The cases, however, and the new cases and the hospitalizations are in fact a reflection of the results of what the American people are doing. And I want to echo the President's and Dr. Birx's statements today about the extraordinary work the American people are doing, because we continue to see a great progress, low and steady numbers in the states of California and Washington. And in the New York metropolitan area, New Jersey, New Orleans metro area, Detroit, Chicago, and Boston, we continue to see evidence of stabilization that should be an encouragement to every American, an encouragement that we may be reaching the point where the impact of the coronavirus is beginning to level off. But it also should be an encouragement to every American to keep doing what we are all doing. Heed the guidance of your state and local authorities, and for every American, continue to put the White House coronavirus guidelines for America into effect. An area of particular concern we were briefed on this morning is the city of Philadelphia. I spoke today to Governor Tom Wolf, and as we begin to see early trend lines in Philadelphia, I assured him that we were going to continue to flow resources and support to that community, but our message to the people of the Philadelphia area is now more than ever practice the social distancing so that Philadelphia and to some extent even Pittsburgh do not have to endure what other communities before them have had to endure. Also today, at the President's direction, we hosted a conference call with every Republican member of the House of Representatives and every Democrat member of the House of Representatives. And we express our appreciation to Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Leader Kevin McCarthy for convening these forums. We brought together key members of our task force team. The Secretary of the Treasury discussed the progress that we've made on paycheck protection. He reported to members of Congress that so far we're working with more than 3,600 lenders across the country, and we've dispersed more than $98 billion in forgivable loans. Now, these are loans that if small businesses accept this money and use it to keep people on their payroll over the next 2 months, they'll be completely forgiven. Treasury tonight will be issuing a new FAQ, frequently asked questions document, that will also make it clear that lenders may use their own closing documents for completing loan applications. And that information is available at treasury.gov and sba.gov as well. Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci briefed the members of Congress today on the latest data. They'll both reflect on that in a moment. We also had Admiral John Polovchik talk about our control tower system and the extraordinary flow of supplies to critical areas across the country. We also briefed on the disbursement of resources to local hospitals with Seema Verma and gave them an update on what the Secretary of State spoke about today. It's remarkable to think more than 50,000 Americans brought back home through nearly 500 flights. And we thank the members of Congress who have worked with the State Department to identify family members and groups that found themselves stranded overseas, and we were grateful for that. In addition to our interaction with members of Congress today, we spoke with the president of the Henry Ford Hospital, Bob Riney. It is the Henry Ford Hospital that is conducting a clinical trial for hydrochloroquine. He expressed great enthusiasm for the work that they had done. They had a rather overwhelming response to the initial trial, which is beginning this week with 3,000 people taking the hydrochloroquine or a placebo so they can match it. But what the president of the Henry Ford Hospital told me is they'd like to expand the test. I put him in touch with Steve Hahn and the FDA, and we'll be adding several more clinical trial paths to look at impacts on particular demographic groups, including seniors and minority populations, and more on that in just a moment. In the category of supplies and support, the President, as of today, has signed 52 major disaster declarations. Vermont was the latest approved, and states have stood up some 27,000 National Guard that are aiding in coronavirus response. On the critical subject of ventilators, we do have currently more than 8,000 ventilators in our strategic national stockpile and distributed more to the Navajo Nation and to Colorado today. But also today we received the good news that the first delivery of newly manufactured ventilators from General Electric and Hamilton arrived at the strategic national stockpile, and as the President said, we'll be adding newly manufactured ventilators to our resources to be available as the coronavirus epidemic reaches critical communities around the country. On the subject of the air bridge, 4 flights scheduled to arrive today, primarily focused on gloves for our incredible healthcare workers. One flight alone had nearly 19 million gloves, another 8 million, another 15 million, and the like. And the American people, I think, would be very proud to see this vast array of now well more than 50 flights that are bringing in supplies from all over the world. And again, working through FEMA, we're directing those resources with the guidance of our scientific experts to the communities most in need. As we announced yesterday, the White House Coronavirus Task Force has requested that CDC and our team assemble data on the unique impact that we're seeing reported on African Americans from the coronavirus. Dr. Fauci spoke about it yesterday, and will reflect on his perspective on that as well. Tomorrow, with the Surgeon General and others on the White House team, we'll be speaking with leaders in the African American community. And as Dr. Fauci will reflect, there have been historic challenges in the healthcare of the African American communities, particularly in our inner cities. And now more than ever, I'll just say from my heart to all of our African American family members, now more than ever, practice the guidelines. Look after those most vulnerable, people that have underlying serious health conditions. It's more important than ever that we all put those principles into practice. Finally, today, I'm going to have, after we hear from Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, I'm going to ask Dr. Redfield to step up, because today the CDC will be publishing new guidance on essential critical workers who have been exposed to COVID-19 but don't have any symptoms, don't have a temperature, and don't have any reason to believe that they have the coronavirus. At the present moment, the guidance is that if you have been in proximity to someone who did test positive for the coronavirus, that the guidance of CDC is that even with essential critical workers in industries from healthcare to food supply, that we ask people to stay home for 14 days. The new guidance tonight will hopefully make it clear that there would be an opportunity for those people playing such an incredible role in our nation's response to be able to return to work and to do so safely. And finally, let me just say again how inspired we are at the response of the American people to the coronavirus epidemic. Each and every day, as we see the beginnings of encouraging news, the low and steady numbers in California and Washington State, and now beginning to see numbers of hospitalizations going down and new cases leveling, and in some cases going down. We all hope it is the beginning of a trend, but we also hope it's an encouragement to every American to keep doing what you're doing, not just for your own health, for the health of your loved ones, but because we want to make sure that all of us are doing our part to make sure that the fewest number of Americans possible are exposed to the coronavirus. And given the fact that this, I remind you, is 3 times more contagious than the flu, each of us has a role to play in slowing the spread. That's what the 30 days to slow the spread is all about. It's about protecting your health. It's about making sure that our healthcare workers and our healthcare system is not overwhelmed by the coronavirus, and ultimately it is about saving lives. We talk about the numbers, and I'm going to ask Dr. Birx to come up and reflect on them, but I think all of us know this is one American at a time. It's one heartbreak at a time. And having lost loved ones in my life, just like everyone here and everyone looking on, we want to work every day to make that number of losses the lowest possible. And it will take all of us to do it and to keep doing exactly what we're doing through today. Dr. Birx.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to start where the Vice President left off. I come out of the services, Army. We always talk about honoring the fallen, and I think for every American, what we can do now to honor the fallen that have fallen and given them really their deaths to this horrible disease, to the healthcare workers that are in the front lines trying to save every single one, to honor them, and to honor our elders and the individuals that we know are at the greatest risk for bad outcomes. We all need to continue to do our work. Yes, the number of cases have stabilizing or is stabilizing, but I do want to go through those numbers with you because we talk about these as micro epidemics in metro areas and in rural areas. So in the New York metro area, which includes obviously northern New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, there are still 11,000 new cases per day, and their positivity rate on their testing is still in the 40% plus range. So there's still a significant amount of disease there, and everyone needs to continue to follow the guidelines. New Orleans metro area, 800 new cases per day, but a seropositivity rate on their testing of 28%. Detroit metro area, 1,400 cases per day, 26% positivity. Chicago, 1,200 cases per day, and 18%. Boston, 18% positivity, 1,100 cases per day. Denver has fallen to 180 cases per day, but still has 15% seropositivity in their testing. California and Washington have stayed stable at about Seattle, 350 cases per day, on the LA metro area, 800 cases per day, but their test positive rates are remaining in the 9% range. And so this really gives us some idea of what it takes. They have been continuously mitigating. Imagine what we're talking about, New York going from 40+% seropositivity and 11,000 cases a day down to the LA metro area of 800 cases per day and 9%. So this is what, when the president talks about reaching the top and coming down, those are the kinds of things we need to see. And the only way we will see them is if every American continues to follow the guidance. Now, in the Philadelphia metro area where I come from, it's 1,400 cases per day. This, of course, includes Camden, the counties around the Philadelphia metro, and Wilmington. And in the Baltimore and the Washington, D.C. area, 15% seropositivity and 500 cases per day and 200 cases per day in Baltimore. This is how we're looking at it, county by county, metro by metro, rural region by rural region, to make sure we don't miss anything. And we're triangulating testing data with the attack rates, with the hospitalization, with the number of cases, and really creating a mosaic of who needs what when to ensure that every American is served well. I had a great call today with a group of pediatricians, the head of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and with the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Behind the scenes and working every day are the pediatricians fielding those phone calls from every concerned mother, and of course grandmothers like myself, and protecting our children every day to ensure that they have access to the medical care that they need while this is happening. And to every pregnant woman out there, I was very reassured hearing from the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. They have put amazing things in place to protect every pregnant woman. They have been social distancing in their offices. They have increased all of the disinfecting. They have lengthened the time between clients. To every pregnant woman, don't miss your appointments. If your OB thinks you need to be there, you should go. And please know that on the labor and delivery wards, they are doing everything to protect you and their babies. They are committed to you. They are absolutely committed to you having a good experience. Make sure if your physician believes you should be in the hospital for your delivery, make sure you're following their guidance. We don't want any pregnant women to suffer a bad outcome during this time. So again, I just want to conclude by thanking the American people and recognizing the number of people we're losing per day is serious to all of us, and it could be so much worse. But our frontline healthcare providers and the way they're talking to each other about how to improve care for every individual that they serve, you see them on the TV, you see them in the emergency room, you see what they're up against. This is how we can honor them, is to make sure we continue to put, as Dr. Fauci always says, put your foot on the gas and make sure that we continue to strongly mitigate and really protect those with pre-existing conditions. And finally, those pre-existing conditions we know now include asthma. So asthma, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, any of these conditions, renal disease, no matter what age, please make sure you're following the guidelines to protect those individuals in your household. We know they're more susceptible to a worse outcome. We don't think that anyone's more susceptible to getting infected. I want to make sure that everyone understands everybody is susceptible to getting infected. This virus is very transmittable, as we well know. But we need to protect those that need our protection the most. So thank you all for what you're doing to get the message out to ensure that we continue to protect each other in this very difficult time.
Great. Dr. Fauci, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to follow up and underscore what Dr. Birx has said, as I've said many times from this podium, the spectrum of going from infection to getting ill to requiring hospitalization to intensive care to death. And what is the most striking thing that obviously is so sobering to us is when we see the number of deaths. We know now for sure that the mitigation that we have been doing is having a positive effect, but you don't see it until weeks later. Remember this past weekend when all of us got up in front of this podium and mentioned that this was going to be a really bad week
At the same time, we were saying that we would hope we would start to see a little bit of a change in the daily hospitalizations, intensive care, and intubations. And New York is starting to see that. So I say that, but I drop back a bit. Don't get complacent about that, because what's going to happen 2.5 weeks from now is really what's going to happen with regard to the people who are getting new infection. As Dr. Berg said, everybody is almost certainly as susceptible as anybody else to getting infected. It's what happens to you after you get infected. And again, to just keep emphasizing, we need to keep mitigating. We know that this is something that is a strain on the American public, but it's just something that we have, not only the only tool, it's the best tool. And to just shift a bit to what we said yesterday regarding the African American community, it is very painful to see, and I've seen it throughout my entire medical career, that the health disparities in the minority community, but particularly the African American community, puts them at risk, apart from coronavirus issues, puts them at risk for diseases much more so than the general population. The double whammy that you suffer now is when you have this terrible virus, which essentially preys in its ultimate deleterious effects on people with those underlying conditions. And since that is more predominant in the African American population, we want to double down and say to the young people, to the elderly people in that community, to please try as best as you can to protect yourself if you're a younger person, and to please protect the people who are susceptible. Your grandmother, your grandfather, your elder uncle, the people who have these underlying conditions. Because we are not going to solve the issues of health disparities this month or next month. This is something we should commit ourselves for years to do. But what we can do now, today, is to prevent people who are put at higher risk because of their demographic group from getting into a situation which is much, much more deleterious than the general population. So I plead with all of us in the population, but particularly for those of us, our brothers and sisters in the African American community, because we know that mitigation does work. The reason we know it works is the question that was asked about the numbers, that why they came down, or the projections. Because remember, what you do with data will always outstrip a model. You redo your models depending upon your data. And our data is telling us that mitigation is working. So again, as Dr. Berg said, keep your foot on the accelerator, because that's what's going to get us through this.
Dr. Redfield. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just wanted to follow up. One of the most important things we can do is keep our critical workforce working. And I think you heard it said that we have many different critical workforce industries in this country. Obviously, first responders, healthcare workers, but as you heard, it's also individuals who help maintain our food supply, et cetera. And so what CDC has done is that we've really looked at the essential workforce and how to maintain that workforce, particularly at this time as we begin to get ready to reopen and have confidence in bringing our workforces back to work. And so we've put out a new guidance for essential healthcare workers who've been exposed to the coronavirus. These are individuals that have been within 6 feet of a confirmed case or a suspected case, and so that they can, under certain circumstances, they can go back to work. If they're asymptomatic, as the Vice President said, they could go back to work if they do several things, as we say here. Take their temperature before they go to work, wear a face mask at all times, and practice social distancing when they're at work. What we'd ask them not to do where they're at work is we want them to stay at home if they're sick. We want them not to share objects that would be touching their face, and we would like them not to congregate in break rooms, lunch rooms, and crowded places. And in the second slide, if we're talking to the employers of these critical industries, we would ask those employers to take the employee's temperature and assess their symptoms before starting them back to work. If the employee does become sick, we want them to be sent home immediately. We'd like them to increase air exchange in the buildings and increase the frequency of how they clean common surfaces, and really begin to get these workers back into the critical workforce so that we won't have worker shortage in these critical industries. So that's the new guidelines that CDC will be posting today.
And those will be available at cdc.gov. And thank you, Dr. Redfield. And we'll have questions for anyone on the panel, please.
Just a couple things to clarify. The 500 million masks the president mentioned that are being developed, are those for healthcare workers, or are you planning to actually hand out masks to the American public?
I think the focus has been to make sure that our healthcare workers and our healthcare system has the supply. And with regard to what we're gathering from literally around the world and from manufacturers in the United States is first being deployed to states and to hospital systems. But I must tell you that whether it be the Haynes Company or other companies, we're seeing manufacturers in America that are recognizing the growing demand for masks by the American people, and are spinning up production literally by the hour. But our focus, our continuing focus, is on making sure that healthcare workers have the personal protective equipment to do their jobs safely and provide the level of care that every one of us would want.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly says that she has put in 7 requests to FEMA for supplies from the stockpile, and those have not been fulfilled. So will Kansas be getting any of the ventilators, because the request included ventilators? And does she need to be calling the White House instead? Have you spoken with her directly?
I've not spoken to the governor directly, but I'll reach out this evening, certainly. In our conference call with governors this week, we spoke to them about the approach that we are taking. You know, traditionally, governors are accustomed to when a hurricane strikes the Gulf Coast, when wildfires strike out west, when flooding or tornadoes hit in places like Indiana. You're accustomed to have a declaration of emergency approved, and then resources flow from FEMA. In this situation, as we deal with a nationwide declaration and an epidemic, what we've explained to governors is that what President Trump has directed is that we leave no stone unturned to find resources around the country and around the world, including ventilators, and we make sure as the coronavirus epidemic impacts individual areas, that the healthcare workers and the families and the patients impacted have what they need when they need it. And what I would say to the people of Kansas is that we're looking at their numbers every day, just as in the case of every state in the country, and we're going to work our hearts out to make sure that as the coronavirus cases emerge, and we hope that through the great work that Kansas has done on social distancing and mitigation, the people of Kansas have done a remarkable job, that we may well be to a place where their existing resources and capacities are present. But we want people to know that taking the counsel of Dr. Birx and our entire healthcare team, we're focusing, just as we did first in Seattle, California, and now in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Louisiana, the Detroit area, the Chicago area. We're going to make sure that those resources go in that order.
And so, because you brought up social distancing and the work that Kansas has done, there's actually a controversy right now over her order to limit the number of people in religious gatherings to 10 people. Should states be telling religious institutions how many people can gather if it's to stop the spread of the coronavirus?
Well, the President's coronavirus guidelines for America ask every American to avoid any gathering of more than 10 people. And that's on the advice of all of our best scientific experts as a way that we can slow the spread. But as we've made clear to every governor, we defer to our governors, in what they believe is the best and appropriate practice in their states, and will support those local decisions. Yes, please.
Thank you. In his opening statement, the president said there were 10 drugs that are now in clinical trials. Would hydroxychloroquine be one of those?
Well, I can speak to that, and then I'll invite Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci to come forward. We do have, I believe, we will have roughly 4 separate clinical trials underway studying hydroxychloroquine. But it's important to remember that that, as the president's made the point many times, the FDA has approved what's called off-label use. And so in consulting with your physician, if your physician determines it's appropriate to write a prescription for hydrochloroquine, we're working today to make that available across the country. It's broadly available today as an anti-malaria medication, but we're working around the country and internationally to increase that supply. But we are studying it in at least 4 different clinical trials, and Dr. Fauci can speak to that.
So the easiest, thank you for that question. The easiest way to find out is to just go clinicaltrials.gov, and it will tell you everything that's there. There are a number of different clinical trials, some of which are randomized controlled trials, which, as I've said many times from this podium, to me is the optimal way to determine ultimately if something is safe and effective and works. But there are a lot of different ways that that's being looked at. It's being looked at against the placebo. It's being part of a multi-arm trial, comparing it with others. There's a trial that was recently started actually in prophylaxis among healthcare workers. So there are several of these. In addition to that, there's what was just mentioned now, that any physician in consultation with their patient and back and forth can make the decision to use the drug on an off-label. So we have 2 things that are simultaneously going on. We're having actual formal clinical trials and the off-label use.
Very good. Next, please.
I want to turn back to the disproportionate rates of Black deaths when it comes to the coronavirus. Dr. Fauci, you have been talking about this for weeks, that there are underlying health issues. People with underlying health issues are most at risk. But if we knew that Blacks disproportionately have fallen into that category, why wasn't the CDC prepared to gather this data in real time to work to fight this?
Well, I'm not sure. We have the director of the CDC here who could answer that question, but let me try to just take it from a different perspective. The health disparities that exist are not anything that started with coronavirus. They were there. So there isn't much you can do about the disparity. The thing you can do is to make an extra special effort to protect people who have the underlying conditions. So it's the same way as we say, well, the elderly and those with underlying condition. Unfortunately, the African American community has a much greater proportion, population for population, of these underlying conditions. So the best weapon we have right now is what I said in my opening remarks, is to do whatever we can to get them to realize that what we need to do is to protect them from getting infected, and to also protect them from inadvertently and innocently bringing the infection to people who have these underlying conditions.
Thank you, sir. Can you explain the thinking behind these 100 ventilators that were given to Colorado when other states like Kansas have had trouble getting ventilators? And can you say whether a personal relationship with the president is helping states like Colorado get these ventilators? I mean, there are 15 states that have more cases than Colorado.
Well, what I can say is that we've been watching Denver very closely, and like many of the other key areas that I touched on, we're beginning to see some encouraging news, but in our interactions with the governor and with local officials and with the senator, we've made an effort not only in Colorado but around the country to be particularly responsive to states where we've seen a growth in cases. But I'm going to let Dr. Birx speak to that as well. There's literally beginning with New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Louisiana, the Detroit area, Michigan, Chicago area. There's a series of other cities, including Denver, that we've been watching very carefully. And while we're beginning to see some encouraging news. We want healthcare workers in those communities to know for certain that we're going to move resources into those areas where we see significant outbreak.
Can you just address the point about whether individual governors with relationships with the president are getting preferential treatment?
I can tell you within that decision complex is not just the absolute number of cases, it's the hospital capacity and what each of those hospitals have. So remember, I think a couple of days ago we talked about how the states are sending the information about ICU beds, hospital beds, ventilator needs. So different states have different, which I don't think any of us probably knew before this, but there are some states that have lots of ventilators, and there's other states that proportion to their population or by their cases of COVID have less. And so I'm sure Denver and Colorado fit into that model where there were hospitals that had less ventilators proportionally and were needed for the cases that were seen. So that's the kind of analysis. So every state that has a few cases more than Colorado have all received ventilators except for, I think, Texas, and that's just because they are just starting. Remember, Colorado was one early on the curve, so they have many more people have moved through that progress and are in need of ventilators. Texas is very early in their curve in both Dallas and Houston. So that's what I was talking about. Each of these are a micro curve that we have to follow independently, or we would be making general decisions rather than specific decisions by geography.
Mr. Vice President, a follow-up on the church's question. You're obviously a very religious man. Will you be going to church on Sunday?
We'll be attending church right in the living room at the Vice President's residence, where we've been attending for the last several weeks. The advantage is we get to go to our home church in Indiana.
Is that the same example you'd like to see churches around the country, regardless of what governors are saying, do as well?
Well, I think the President's coronavirus guidelines for America are very clear, that during this 30 days, we're calling on every American in every state first to listen to your state and local authorities, but right after that, to avoid gatherings of more than 10 people, avoid unnecessary travel, use drive-through at restaurant instead of going into the restaurant. We are, as these health experts have told you, seeing real evidence that we're slowing the spread, that these mitigation efforts are having a strong impact. And tonight, as many people, even at this hour on the East Coast, are beginning to sit down to a Seder dinner. It's the beginning of Passover, and with Easter celebrations this Sunday. We just want to encourage every American to heed the counsel of the guidelines, put those into effect, and know that in so doing, we'll hasten the day. We'll hasten the day that we put the coronavirus in the past and we reopen our country.
Mr. Vice President, can I ask a question of Dr. Birx or Dr. Fauci?
Of course.
As you are both probably aware, there's a lot of misinformation, conspiracy theories out there about the coronavirus. There are some commentators who are suggesting that the number of dead are being inflated because they're saying that people who are dying with other issues are being listed as COVID-19 deaths. Perhaps you've seen some of this commentary. You may be too busy to see it, but it is out there. What do you say to those folks who are making the claim without really any evidence that these deaths are being padded, that the number of COVID-19 deaths are being padded? For example, somebody who might die from a number of factors but had coronavirus are being listed as coronavirus deaths, and because of that, the number is being inflated.
That's a fair question. And you might also speak about the converse.
Yeah, we've been hearing the converse too. We've been hearing both sides of that. I think we've made it very clear, I think every time I've been up here, about the comorbidities. And so most of the people, and we talked about the Italy data, the majority of the Italians who succumbed to this had 3 or more comorbidities. So this has been known from the beginning. So those individuals will have an underlying condition, but that underlying condition did not cause their acute death when it's related to a COVID infection. In fact, it's the opposite. Having that underlying condition and getting this virus, we know, is particularly damaging to those individuals. We don't know all the pathophysiology. I wish we did right now. We see a lot of vasculitis where Tony and I came from. Tony actually, Dr. Fauci started in the vasculitides and Wagner's. So, I mean, these are things we have studied for a long time. We are trying to understand the pathophysiology, but what we can tell you at this moment, if you have asthma, if you have renal disease, if you have diabetes, if you have hypertension, these are pre-existing conditions that put you at a greater risk to having a worse outcome.
So, Jim, just to add a comment to that, because, you know, having been through other serious issues, particularly the very painful early years of HIV, AIDS, when people talk about conspiracy theories, you will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions. You know, I can assure you, we have so much to do to protect the health and the welfare of the American people that I would just hope we just put those conspiracy stuff and let somebody write a book about it later on, but not now.
Dr. Brooks, you said something about not enough tests being performed because some of the labs, the machines aren't running. Did you want to clarify that? What did you mean by 80% weren't running? And
so I have a call with them at 8 p.m. tonight. Every single one of those 120 laboratories, I think 87 of the laboratory directors have confirmed that call. It has to do with a machine called an Abbott M2000. It's a very high throughput machine. We have 1 million tests out there. I made a big push, and Abbott was extraordinary about getting those out to the labs. I mean, this is not sitting in a warehouse. These are physically in these laboratories, sitting there right now.
The machines aren't running.
They're not running. So we've only run 88,000 tests in 3 weeks off of those machines with 1 million test kits. So as someone who has worked in a lot of laboratories, to have a machine that is needed, because we could have screened every healthcare worker. These machines are every place in the country. So they could have screened in these last 3 weeks 100% of the healthcare workers across the country that needed these tests to be done, and they're high throughput. So I have a call with them at 8 o'clock to really talk about.
Can that to happen? Can an order be given?
Well, I asked the Vice President to give me a chance to talk to my colleagues first, but we have a call with the CEOs of those hospitals tomorrow.
Great. Thank you. That's a really important question, and it underscores the fact that Dr. Birx pointed out that with this new test, Abbott Laboratories, FEMA's been busy distributing to states around the country. We purchased 1,200 of these machines to be able to do these tests, but there's 18,000 all across America. And so let me just renew our call to all the hospital administrators and lab operators around America to go and identify those Abbott Laboratories machines and know that while we've already tested more than 1.9 million Americans, our short-term objective is to test as many Americans as possible as we see the coronavirus epidemic emerge in areas around the country. We want to surge those resources. We want states that haven't seen a significant outbreak to have access to that 15-minute test. And ultimately, as we go forward, I think President Trump said today, nobody wants to open the country up more than him, and I can attest to that. But we're going to open it up when we can do so responsibly, putting the health of America first, and to reopen America and to stay open America. We're working around the clock to continually expand the kind of testing that will allow us to do what these experts call surveillance, so that in every state in the country, once we put this chapter of coronavirus behind us, we hope and trust sooner rather than later that when next fall comes, that we will have a vast array so that CDC can do what it does so well. And that is when a particular disease emerges, CDC surges personnel, does contact tracing, isolates that individual. So we're just really calling on all of our partners in the laboratories and in hospitals around the country to identify those Abbott laboratory machines and help us continue to scale up and expand testing. But to every American, let me again just say thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. We are in the midst of a week of heartache, and I want to assure every American who has suffered loss that we're with you. We're praying for you and your families, and we'll continue to work our hearts out to make sure these incredible healthcare workers who are inspiring every single one of us all across the country every day have the resources and the support and the equipment to do their job safely, to provide the level of care that any American family would want for their loved one, and to be able to go home safely to their families. And the key to all of that, the key for the next 22 days is 30 days to slow the spread. And I just encourage every American, if you haven't done so recently, go to coronavirus.gov, print off your own copy, pick up the phone and call a friend and just tell them that you heard from the experts, you heard from the president and our team that we're beginning to see glimmers of hope. Extraordinary progress in California and Washington is a tribute to the people of those states and the leadership of those states. But the beginning of stabilization and perhaps even leveling in New York and New Jersey, Louisiana, and Detroit is a testament to the people of those communities, to the leadership of those states. But understand that every one of us has a role to play to protect the most vulnerable among us and to save lives by putting the guidelines into practice, just like you've been doing every day since they were first announced. So thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.